What's going on, family and friends? Welcome. Today, I'm proud to be joined by Linda P. Jones, former Wall Street veteran, founder of the platform Be Wealthy and Smart. Let me bring her up on screen right now. Excuse me. There she is, the one and only Linda P. Jones. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Let me give you a proud introduction, Linda, so everyone up in the audience knows what you've accomplished to date. You are a proud Wall Street veteran, founder of the platform Be Wealthy and Smart. You're also the author of a few books. One that I have up on my shelf here is 3 Steps to Quantum Wealth. You've recorded close to 1,500 podcasts over the past 10 years. Linda, you've made an appearance on Fox, on Bravo, Forbes, Business Insider, and now you're on my channel, Linda. I want to highlight, I got nothing but love and respect for you. You mentioned you were also my 3rd subscriber. So I appreciate you. Thank you so much for being just a wonderful mentor of mine. And let's have some fun today.
Thank you. Well, it's my pleasure and honor to be here. And I was your 3rd subscriber because that's how much I believe in you and the great new content that you're bringing in this channel and just your experience, your contacts, all your knowledge. It's going to be great. I hope everybody who watches this subscribes.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that. I'm going to just kind of bring up on the screen here, last time we saw each other was at the XRP Las Vegas. This photo here is of me supporting you at one of your conferences for Be Wealthy and Smart, actually here in Southern California. So just wanted to just show everyone how close we are and how much you mean to me. So thank you for everything. And I do want to make note that today, before we dive into today's live stream, I do want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's live stream. That's Merlin, also my very first official sponsor. Merlin is the leading asset management app designed to simplify the complexities of cryptocurrency trading and portfolio management. Their app enables users like me and many of those watching the call today by consolidating assets stored across multiple exchanges, multiple wallets into one friendly and intuitive user face or dashboard. Their platform comes with advanced exit planning tools, real-time portfolio insights, and tax estimations. So see the link in the description below to access Merlin's multi-tier exit planning tool today. And have you been able to use Merlin's app yet, Linda?
I haven't yet, but I think it's very inventive.
Very much so. They got a great team. You got Coach JV, Abs, Johnny Crypto, Jeremy. Great team, and I'm thankful that they've given me the opportunity to partner with them. But I want to switch gears now that we've gone through the introductions and all that stuff. I want to talk about Be Wealthy and Smart. Your platform, which can be found at lindapjones.com. You empower women and men worldwide to achieve financial freedom and abundance through nearly, as mentioned, 1,500 podcasts, additional resources, and your book. So as mentioned, you've appeared across multiple platforms. What is Be Wealthy and Smart?
Well, Ray, after I had a long Wall Street career, and had successful investing on my own, making a couple $1 million in the .com era and the big boom at that time. Several years later, I had a really tragic situation with my husband dying suddenly from a brain aneurysm. And so it really made me just stop in my tracks and think about what my life is all about and realize that we have limited time here and I better figure out what my role is. And I decided that role was to take some of the things that were missing on Wall Street and maybe enhance what people can do with investing on their own if I could fill some of those voids. And one of them, for example, is that sometimes we don't get to hear from Wall Street very much. We don't get a lot of comments on what's going on, or if we do, it's very complicated. It's in a foreign language. We don't really understand all the jargon. I felt that there were fees on top of fees on top of fees, and people could manage their own money and do a good job at it. And also just have support of saying, hey, here's where some of the next wealth building opportunities are, and being more proactive with pointing people in the right direction for trends and cycles and where wealth is really happening and how to reach for freedom by getting higher compounding rates. So I started Be Wealthy and Smart, actually started the podcast and then started Be Wealthy and Smart after that. And it's morphed over time, but what I decided to do is an online version that could reach everyone around the globe and offer basically three different parts to it. So a portfolio of ETFs, like Wall Street does, but people can manage those low fee ETFs on their own.
Mm-hmm.
Have that portfolio, then adding private equity to that, which typically Wall Street won't offer unless you have $10 million or more. So now people don't have an income or other requirement because we have them for non-accredited and accredited investors. So no income limit, no asset requirement for those investments we have. And then also some crypto. So I felt that the digital asset space was probably going to be one of the most opportunistic places to invest in our lifetimes. And so we have a portfolio of digital assets that we invest in also. And then I do monthly webinars and updates with people so that people know what's going on with their money and what's happening. And before people usually have a question to ask, I've usually answered it for them. So we do that in small sound bites, so it doesn't take much time. My podcasts are like under 10 minutes, 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Awesome. Love to hear that. And thank you for sharing your personal journey in regards to your husband. I'm sorry. Sorry about that, Linda. Do you mind, because I've had the opportunity or privilege to be in the room when you're teaching your students or your class. Do you mind sharing some of the most memorable moments of or impacting somebody within your career path or your accelerator program, and maybe one that's shaped you into the financially free businesswoman that you are today?
Yeah, well, back in my career in Wall Street, I was studying and following and reporting on what money managers were doing. That was my role, was to report to financial advisors what was happening at a large brokerage firm's investment management division. So I loved studying about investments. I loved teaching people about that and talking about how they got performance and implemented that in some of my own investing. And to be able to share that with other people and to be able to teach that, whether it's through, a seminar that we did last year was Wealth in a Weekend. It was all about what to do when you come into a lot of wealth. A lot of people in digital assets are wondering what happens when you become wealthy? What are we going to do with all that money? What are the options that are available to you? What do wealthy people have that they can do that you normal human beings, us mere mortals, aren't able to do? And so it was in preparation for what happens if you have tremendous wealth in your life. So that was what you came to speak at that event and provide the private equity piece there, where we talked a little bit more about that and venture capital and things, angel investing and things like that. But
Yep.
really exciting. I just love these topics. It's my pleasure to share them with people and write about them and really show people that there's so many opportunities for creating wealth around us. It's not necessarily what we hear on television. It's not necessarily easily spelled out for us. There's so much to get overwhelmed by that I just like to take it into small bites and say, you don't have to look at everything. You don't have to be an expert at everything. You don't have to read all these magazines or watch all these TV shows or read all these blogs. Just, here are the salient points that you need to know and be paying attention to for your own personal wealth.
Absolutely. With this whole movement into social media and leveraging these platforms, I think there's a paradigm shift on how people consume content and information. And so with that being said, I feel it's actually timely. I'd like to play a few clips from the XRP Las Vegas conference. So for those that are watching, there's a few clips that I wanted to bring attention to, including Uphold CEO Simon McLaughlin confirming Uphold's attorney was formerly a head of the SEC, which is why they were confident in the decisions that they made for not delisting XRP from their platform when everyone across the world did. Another one is Perry Ann Boring from the Digital Chamber discussing the USA's responsibility as a trusted steward of the internet. Another one is Link 2 CEO Joe Indoso up on stage at the XRP conference highlighting significant trends by institutional investors, which is music to my ears, and I'm sure many that are watching this episode today, or live stream, excuse me. And then the last one is Brad Kimes, aka Digital Perspectives, with former CFTC chairman J. Christopher Giancarlo. They were discussing the dollar's current status as the world reserve currency. I'm going to play this clip, and then I would love to get your insight and perspective on some of these details, if you don't mind. I'm going to play right now. Thanks, Linda.
When the SEC launched this case, we went out to 3 separate law firms and we said, do you believe they are correct in law? And extraordinarily, I've dealt with regulators all over the world. I've never had a situation where 3 different major law firms come back and say, actually, we believe they're wrong on the law. But the advice we got from law firms was actually, you should probably delist it anyway. And we did take a significant risk. We took the view that we had like 1 million customers who held XRP, and we decided to stay with it. What gave us additional confidence was one of the law firms who employed a partner who was a former head office of the SEC. And he was very clear, they're wrong on the law.
One of the top 5 companies in the world today are companies that are internet companies. What do they all have in common? These are all US businesses. Why are they here? That didn't happen by mistake. Our leaders recognized that the internet would be an important technology and that we should harness its development here in the United States so Americans can benefit from this technology, and we have. Imagine if the US had taken the same regulatory approach towards 1.0 as it's doing towards Web 3.0.
Sovereign wealth funds, global family offices, basically the largest institutional investors in the world today. What percentage do you think of their total portfolio do they allocate today to alternative assets? Alternative assets are things like crypto, things like commodities, things like private equity, which is what Link2 is in. These 2 guys, by the way, represent those 2 other asset classes, crypto and gold, right? What do you think that percentage would be? Most individuals, if they thought about that, would probably wager that number is somewhere between maybe 2 and 10%. I'll tell you that today, the reality is that the largest investment institutions in the world, on average, allocate 57% to alternatives.
If we just look at the things that are happening, just the inflation, the money printing, we all in this room know that it's unsustainable. And we don't get an email when it hits that wall. There's a line in the sand when it comes to money. And this is so funny because as involved as the construct of the financial system is, there's an imaginary line in the sand called confidence. And once it's lost, absolutely, that piece of paper isn't worth anything. That's right.
That was a powerful quote by Brad. Actually, the last comment where he says the construct of basically our financial framework is underpinned by an imaginary thing called confidence, and once that's gone, what do we fall back on? And so it's interesting times that here we are running into stablecoins and this new means of transmitting and sharing and transacting value. Underpinned by new technologies like blockchain and infrastructure. What are your thoughts, Linda?
Well, first I want to give a shout out to Brad Kimes for an amazing event with XRP Las Vegas. That was astounding. Maybe we can talk more about that.
Please.
But I agree that trust and confidence is what the financial system runs on. When you lose trust and confidence, there is a problem. And we've seen that in a lot of other countries where too much currency has been created and it's caused a devaluation of the value of their currency, the purchasing power of their currency. But we've also seen it here because the dollar's 98% lost purchasing power since 1913 when the dollar came into existence under the Federal Reserve. So we know what it's like to lose purchasing power, but we haven't seen the high inflation that some other countries have, and that's what ravages the purchasing power of their currency. And that is a completely controllable situation, and it shouldn't be happening. And hopefully cryptocurrency will play a role in a new financial system that will fix that in the future.
Well, on the topic of XRP Las Vegas, what was one of your favorite moments or takeaways from the overall experience?
I was thrilled to see it had grown a lot over the first version, and there were so many more people there, and it just was exciting to see Ripple play an active role in being there. Last year, Brad Garlinghouse surprised people and appeared to a group of people there. But this time he came out, took pictures with people. I was able to get my photo with him, which was great. David Schwartz spoke on stage. that was exciting to have someone from Ripple actually speaking and presenting and being supportive of the XRP investing community, because we all believe in their project. We believe in what they're doing, and it was exciting to have them support us as well.
Awesome. Yeah. It was quite the pleasure to. You didn't make it to the benefits dinner.
I did. I went at the last minute. I signed up and I went. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, it was great to see him and oh goodness, one of his buddies up on stage. I'm drawing a blank of
Michael Arrington.
Arrington, correct, of Arrington Capital. You could tell that those guys have some history. They were just very comfortable up on stage and just going back and forth. It was a lot of fun.
Very funny, good senses of humor. Really, he was poking fun at Brad, and Brad took it really well, and we all laughed at his expense.
Yeah, we sure did. I mean, from the socks to the jokes, it was a lot of fun.
Brad Garlinghouse is very self-deprecating and humble, and he was really a pleasure to watch and get to know a little bit better.
Yeah, it was I brushed elbows with him. I took a photo, and but it was funny to see others bring, I mean, pillows to get signed by Brad, or just random posters and things of that nature. And so it's just, and I'm you could count me into that bucket, because one of the first consensus I've ever attended, there was an event that that Ripple held at called the Ripple House on down in Austin, and I was in the back courtyard mingling with the team at Xpunks, Kai, Luis, and Bastian. And then Matthew Hamilton, who's one of the early developers, as he's since left, but he said, "Hey Ray, did you get one of these Ripple fanny packs?" And so he gave me this white fanny pack that I've since gotten signatures from, like David Schwartz, even Matt and Brad and everyone. So I'm in the same camp as those that brought their pillows to get signed by him, because it's we're so passionate about this movement, and it's one way to document it or memorialize the whole experience. And so anyways, but on the topic of Ripple, and can you see the screen here? This is a little small clip of the MICA timeline. There's obviously there's rumors that the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit might conclude soon. A topic circulating in the community for since the lawsuit was filed, truthfully. But notably, today, MiCA regulations are due June 30th. However, they're expected to take till July of 2026 to account for all the transitioning that's required to the new rules and regulations, or the new framework. I'll make sure that I drop the link to the graphic in the comments. But what are your thoughts on MiCA, or just the potential rumors of the SEC versus Ripple lawsuit concluding soon, and because obviously these MiCA regulations influence the stablecoin market, which Ripple had recently launched their RLUSD stablecoin. Then we also have to be mindful of Circle as a stablecoin issuer as well, because as mentioned, these MiCA regulations are going to essentially clip the wings of Tether, and I believe influence the stablecoin market, or empower the stablecoin issuers like Circle and Ripple to take up, or begin to take up, more market share. And before I ask for your insights, I'd like to, or at least the audience, to be mindful that Circle did recently file their confidential S1. Ripple is on this public display, call it this SEC versus Ripple lawsuit, for the past 4 years. So you're able to see their financials. So the company is very transparent right now because of this case. So in a way, is this in preparation for some type of public exit or something of the sort? Do you foresee some type of event because of MiCA triggering a Ripple Circle IPO? Obviously Tether's getting its wings clipped. What do you think's going on because of MiCA?
Okay, so MiCA is in Europe, right? It's the European regulations, and so again, we see the U.S. not being the leader in creating regulations first. The U.S. is really going to be on the back end of this whole situation, this whole story that's unfolding. The U.S. is consistently at the end, and we're going to see it again with stablecoins and also with crypto regulations, I think. So this MICA rule goes into effect at the end of June, and Brad Garlinghouse has told us that they think the lawsuit will be over by the end of summer. I think it'll be over probably by the end of July, maybe sooner. Maybe we'll see it anytime. I'm expecting it anytime between now and perhaps the end of July. So I think we could get the end of the Ripple lawsuit sooner. But this stablecoin legislation is necessary because what the stablecoin legislation does is it makes crypto real money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's happening in Europe first, and it's going to happen here sometime during the year because Congress also is voting on a stablecoin bill. So we're going to get stablecoin legislation in the United States after Europe, but before general crypto legislation, which I think will happen next year. So the stablecoins are going to be launched and are going to probably IPO before some other companies do, such as Ripple. So I think the legislation has to come in that will make stablecoins real money. That will allow those companies to be registered and scrutinized, audited, et cetera. I mean, they already are, but another level when they have their IPO, then they become publicly traded. That's another level of regulation. And so we'll see the stablecoins first, and then I think maybe next year might be the Ripple IPO after we have crypto legislation come into effect next year.
I agree. And why I have up on screen right now is a post by the Digital Pound Foundation highlighting that Uphold is delisting Tether and 5 other stablecoins to comply with MiCA regulations. You know, it's funny because as the clip that I had previously played of Simon McLaughlin up on stage at the XRP Las Vegas conference, you know, he mentioned that they've always been that their attorneys they believe they're in the right. I saw a post by Dr. Martin Hiesbach, which is he's the head of Uphold's institutional research department, and mentioned that essentially Uphold has always been in compliance. So it's interesting. Maybe you can share your thoughts on why Uphold would be inclined to keep XRP on the platform and then be quick to delist Tether, given the MiCA regulations. Any thoughts, speculation, tinfoil hat remarks?
Well, you know that I believe everything with money is always planned well in advance, so nothing is by accident. I think the fact that Uphold kept XRP on their platform during the lawsuit, as they describe it, they went to their attorneys and asked their opinion. For whatever reason, they had confidence in Ripple and in XRP being exonerated, so that eventually happened, and we'll finally get the fine out of the way. With stablecoins, the legislation is meaning that these stablecoins have to meet certain requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so Tether, the problem with Tether, there's many problems with Tether, but one of the problems with Tether is that no one in the US will audit Tether.
Mm-hmm.
Auditors, all the auditing companies have refused to audit Tether because I believe they don't say why, but I believe it's because they don't feel it would pass the audit. So they don't want to be the one to even be involved with it. So they're just avoiding the whole situation. But part of the problem is they don't have the one-for-one backing of the asset that it needs to have. They have a mix of different assets that are backing Tether, which some may or may not be appropriate to back a stable coin. And so there's different areas where Tether's not going to stand up to the regulations that are going to be passed. And so I think in advance of knowing that, they are removing Tether from their platform because they know when the regulations come in, it's not going to pass the regulations.
Exactly. And the reason why I put up this clip or this image, Linda, is to highlight those assets that are used as collateral for these stable coins or for the stablecoin issuers, specifically Circle and Ripple, who are tokenizing U.S. Treasuries. I found an interesting data point that the U.S. Treasury market is as of May 2024, so last month, was stood over $26 trillion. And that's just the U.S. Treasury market. That's not, we're not thinking about overseas or anything of that sort. So to your point, it's, when we're talking about one of the most scrutinized asset classes or that are involved with rigorous regulations, I would assume that, you need to operate within compliance and the reporting structures needed, the attestations that are required to prove that you have the collateral at that time. I mean, that seems understandable given the fact that we're talking about the largest and deepest bond market in the world, and then also that we're talking about government bonds here. So it's like you can't just let a fly-by-night company have access to tokenizing these real-world assets. So, I mean, as much as we hear that Tether is getting its wings clipped, do you really believe that they're actually going to go away or go to zero? I mean, I feel like they'll still be in the ecosystem, but just servicing alternative jurisdictions that are outside the U.S. Or does that make sense? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, that's what Tether has said, is that they are basically outside the U.S. and Europe now. They're going to basically places that aren't as stringent with regulations, I believe. And so that's their choice to remove themselves from these markets. They're doing that voluntarily rather than being forced to do it, which is probably a smart move on their part. But when you look at Ripple creating RLUSD and the real US dollar, that's exciting because what we're talking about is real money. And this is going to be, used in contracts, and it's going to be used between countries, and it's going to be, carrying value. And to be the real US dollar, it has to meet stringent requirements, and it has to have all of the backing that needs to be there with US Treasury bonds. And if Ripple is going to be standing behind that, then they have to be beyond reproach. They have to be, squeaky clean and be, meet every regulation, every audit, everything. And so that's the kind of company and that's the kind of situation we have to have in order to have confidence. We talked about faith and confidence in currency. In order to have faith and confidence, we have to have all those things in this new digital form of money.
Exactly. And on that point, Linda, I want to still hover above Ripple, and I still want to talk about XRP. I read this article came out actually yesterday on Crypto News BTC. The reason why I'm bringing this up is because the author had actually included you in this overall article. And it mentioned that as well as Linda Jones, a notable Wall Street veteran, predicted that Ripple might commence at a $600 per share, upon a liquidity event, citing its large XRP holdings. A $600 value would lead basically a 15x spike within the present worth of the share of Ripple share. This ought to increase the XRP from its current price to potentially a $7 threshold. These articles, I mean, anybody can whip them up. So I'm not holding you to this, but I mean, maybe I can't confirm where they receive this, but what are your thoughts? I mean, they're quoting you. Do you still believe in this? Was this true? Do you mind sharing?
Well, first of all, I can't give financial advice, and I can't guarantee anything that I am speculating about.
Come on, Linda.
However, I did speculate by comparing and using comparisons that actually happened on the two platform, right? So when Coinbase went public, which in order to look at or estimate a company's valuation, when you're looking at a private company and trying to anticipate what's it going to be worth when it has an IPO or initial public offering on a public stock exchange, what is the value going to be worth? Because private markets, private equity has been the #1 performing asset of the last 20 years. And so the compounding rates and the opportunities for investment are much more exciting because they have been, we can't guarantee that in the future, but they have been some of the best investment opportunities around. So what did we do to make that comparison? Well, I looked at Coinbase, which is one of the few companies that you can use as a Ripple comparison
Mhm.
because it's in the digital asset space. Now, it's very different from Ripple. It's an exchange, as we all know. Uh, but so there's differences. But when you look at how much the increase was from the time Coinbase was a private company to the time it went public on the stock market, I think it went public at $80 billion. And so if I'm not sure if that's the right number, but it's been a while since I looked at that. But anyway, this actually was something I talked about a year ago. I haven't updated this, but this is actually a years old report that they're digging up again and reporting yesterday.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So we looked at Coinbase's valuation and what their multiple was when they went public, and then we basically used the same one for Ripple, and then also used an increase in the XRP price due to having the end of the lawsuit, having rumors of an IPO, the fact of the IPO happening, all of that value conservatively coming into the XRP crypto, and that drove that to a $7 valuation, which is, I think, very conservative. So we tried to be conservative and use these numbers, and it still came to a very healthy possible valuation for Ripple in the future. So we tried to be scientific about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a pretty big number, and it would be exciting if that comes true. So we'll see.
Yeah, I had the privilege of hopping into an X space yesterday with Karim Noorani, and who's the chief strategy officer of Link2, and also a board member, excuse me. But what he mentioned during the call was specifically that about their success with Coinbase and as well as Robinhood, as they were both private companies on their platform, and they got to experience a wonderful, I guess you can call a surfing experience right in that wave, but ultimately, I think I'm curious to see, or excited to see, what evolves from Circle, from Ripple. I mean, also, they have on their platform the company Cerebras, which is an AI company that filed their confidential S1 even yesterday as well. So, yeah, very interesting times, and I thought that, I believe you're passionate about Cerebras, right? Is there anything that you'd like to share about that company?
Yeah, Cerebras is actually one of the 5 companies on the Be Wealthy and Smart VIP Experience recommended list for private equity for accredited investors. So yeah, Cerebras is very exciting. I think they're seeing a lot of the excitement for NVIDIA and what's been happening with NVIDIA. The valuation that NVIDIA has been getting, of course, now being the most valuable company in the world due to their AI. Both the centers that they have for AI and also for the chip development and all the things that they have going on. It's incredible what they're doing. And I think Cerebras has some things that they think might be even stronger than what NVIDIA is doing. So they are very excited to get their opportunity to go public and tell the world what their technology is, who their customers are, what their sales are. And so I think that's going to be a very exciting process to see. I think we're also getting close to a strong year of IPOs again, possibly next year, because where we are in the technology curve is about, technology curve actually is an S curve. And so basically there's a part of the curve where it almost goes straight up. And I think as we get to the end of this year into next year, we're approaching that straight up moment where we're going to see AI companies go even more crazy. AI be combined with other things, AI perhaps being combined with digital assets, AI being combined with, other technologies that enhance them. And that is going to spur it on even more. And when we look back to the 90s as a reference point of a cycle that we are repeating, it was 1994 when the companies really started to go public. And that's when the IPO boom really happened. And so if that starts happening at the end of 2024, I wouldn't be surprised to see that through the end of this decade be the real spectacular technology eventually a bubble, but not yet, but eventually into the end of this decade being quite an exciting time for investors that we have only start to see the beginning phases of.
Exciting, very exciting times, Linda, and also timely with the next my next question for you. Up on stage or on the screen here is in regards to the IPO window or the IPO market. In early so far in 2024, we've seen a total of 88 IPOs. Early this year, we saw Rubrik, Reddit, Astra Labs, and well, actually a couple of those were also available on Link2's platform. But where I'm getting at is though, I was under the impression that we were going to see this IPO window widen open this year. What I have on screen here is stockanalysis.com. They've identified, as mentioned, 88 IPOs this year so far. In 2023, there was a total of 154 IPOs. In 2022, there was 181. But in 2021, which I believe was the same year of Coinbase's IPO, there was over 1,000 IPOs. And then when kind of looking at the historical chart here, when I see the $10, for me that identifies that those were SPACs. And so what are your thoughts? Link2 recently announced its reverse SPAC merger, its plans. Do you think that we're going to enter a similar market like 2021? Was it a fluke? Because if you even go back another year to 2020, there's actually 480. So it's better than at least 2024. In 2019, we saw 232. So again, was 2021 a fluke? Will we see something like that again in the next IPO window? What are your thoughts? Do you have high hopes for the end of 2024?
I have hopes for 2024. I don't think we're going to get into a speculative market in 2024 per se. It's probably more like 2025 when everything goes shooting up.
Okay.
That's what I'm seeing. But in 2024, just to answer your question about 2021, we were coming out of 2020, of course, the pandemic. We had a lot of stimulus at that time. So all that liquidity was out there. And I think a lot of the IPO market was floating on a lot of that liquidity. We also had interest rates at zero. There was basically nowhere to get return. And so all the money just flowed into IPOs and speculative, the most speculative part of the market. And then the SPACs being, special purpose acquisition companies where they basically have a blank check that they can go out and acquire other companies. That was sort of a phase at that time too, which I think we're probably not going to see that repeat. But we will see IPOs come to market, and we will see that gain more interest, especially in the AI area. With NVIDIA's success, with the massive valuation that NVIDIA has now, over $3 trillion of market.
Wow. I think they generated was it 300 million in revenue?
I don't remember the specific number, but I mentioned it in a podcast recently. And
where can we find that podcast?
You can find it on my website at lindapjohns.com/podcasts. Easy, or on iTunes or any place where you can listen to podcasts. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
But I think, there weren't that many companies that were, pure AI plays, and those that have an AI component, they're mentioning AI in their corporate meetings, right, or in their company quarterly meetings. They're public, talking about their earnings, and they're talking about AI, and they're mentioning AI like hundreds of times. That's a strategy now for companies to do that, to try to get an AI additional valuation, because it's been so successful with many companies just mentioning AI and getting, a $500 billion boost to their value of their company. It's insane.
Was it like having the .com at the end of your name back in the .com boom?
Even bigger at this point, but it's a handful of companies. It's been the Magnificent Seven that have really been given that boost. And smaller companies haven't really enjoyed that very much yet. And so with the .com bubble, everybody could enjoy that. All they had to say was they were starting a website, and they were going to, sell online, or they were, looking at how many eyeballs were watching their website. And it wasn't even how many sales they had. It was just how many people are coming to your website. That was it. That was the big measurement at that time. And it didn't have to rely on sales. And it's the same thing kind of with AI. I think people are just excited that companies are working with AI and incorporating it. And if they're at the forefront of that, they're being given a premium. And so other companies are sort of lagging. But the reality is every company is now looking at how can AI be used in their company to increase profits and to reduce expenses and to expand into other areas. And the fact is they're hiring more people with using AI. So we're not really seeing layoffs from AI specifically. What we're hearing is people are being hired when they use AI. So it's going to morph over time. I think it's going to combine into different things, but there are some exciting companies that are private that see that they're missing out by not getting the public money that they could be getting. And so they're going to have their IPO and they're going to experience that. And then we're going to have more companies. We're going to have a flood of AI companies come out because of the demand. And right now, also venture capitalists can just, get a blank check from investors and raise a ton of capital because you just say, I'm going to start an AI company, and boom, everybody wants to invest, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of money for AI right now. And so I think the IPO market's going to take advantage of that and bring all these companies public as soon as is viable and possible.
Wow. Wonderful times to be an AI investor or somebody that's in the industry tooling away and building for the future. Aside from Cerebras, are there any other AI companies that are tickling your fancy or that have caught your attention?
Well, of course, Ripple was the first company on our list because we were investors in XRP and had studied about Ripple for so long. We also like Samba Nova, which is an AI company that has government contracts. So when you look at who can write the biggest checks to you for using AI, that would be governments. So that's always a potential very profitable market for people to market to governments. And if the U.S. government is supporting you, that kind of gives you some kind of confidence that other companies don't have if they're not working with the government. So that's a very exciting company too.
Linda, before we shift gears to my next question here, we've gotten a couple questions come through the chat here. One of them's from Richard last name and I'm going to bring up the question. Linda, any thought when the Fed rate will go down?
Yes. So recently we just are starting to hear that insurance rates are going down, which was one of the last two things holding the consumer price index high. And so now that if insurance premiums do come down, that will bring down the CPI. The market is already anticipating that and has started pricing in 2 interest rate cuts. I think September is probably the most likely time we see that. And the market has already come down 16 basis points. So we're under 7% on the 30-year mortgage now for the first time since March. And that's exciting. And so we could see, if inflation comes down, we could see the market price in those cuts first. And we could see it show up in the mortgage market and in the housing market. And finally, the Fed will, at the tail end of that, will cut rates. So we won't see them do it first. We'll see them do it later. But I think September is probably a good estimate of when that will happen.
Interesting. Does that have any relations with developments occurring in July?
It's going to be related to that because we'll get fresh data. The problem is the Fed is looking at data that is, several months old, and there's a lag time from them raising rates that take a year to 18 months to even show up. So we may be seeing the economy slowing, and they may not be seeing it as much because of what numbers they're looking at. And so consumer confidence is down quite a bit. That's an indicator that the consumer is not feeling confident about spending large amounts of money or maybe going to buy a new car or going to buy a home. And so if the consumer the consumer is the most important factor here because the consumer makes up 70% of the economy. So if the consumer is feeling less confident about spending, that's a sign that the economy may be slowing. And so that is something that's more forward looking, whereas what the Fed's looking at is more rear view mirror looking. So it takes them a while to catch up. So even if we see the CPI be weaker in July, they're still going to be looking, the Fed is still going to be looking to get interest rates to closer to their 2%, or inflation rather, to their 2% level, which is what they want before they want to cut rates. So they're going to be slow to do it. That's why I think it's going to take till September.
Excellent. Thanks for leaning in and answering that question. And great question, Richard. Another question coming in from the audience, Linda. I'm going to pop up on screen here right now. It is from Sita Javu. Thanks for your question. Can you cover the fail news that went around about the petrodollar agreement that everyone's been talking about or expired? Potentially, I'm thinking around BRICS. Any insights?
Yeah, well, there was that rumor that there was an end of the agreement with Saudi Arabia. I couldn't find anywhere to find that actually was reported as fact. Mm-hmm. We only had a rumor, but a lot, it was picked up by a lot. And assuming that that's real, the agreement with Saudi Arabia was that they would use the dollar for oil sales, and then we would support them with military protection. And so if, in fact, that agreement just ended this month, which it's being reported that it did, and Saudi Arabia is saying they are not renewing that agreement with the U.S. exclusively, they are going to price oil in other dollars or in other currencies, I should say. So what that's telling us is that we are moving toward that level playing field that BRICS has wanted to have, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa is starting their own version of what is going to be a new financial system, which will not give the dollar dominance over all these other countries, but will create a level playing field. And I believe the U.S. will come into that last, and that will be the end of the Federal Reserve, and we will go under treasury departments in each country, and each country will be responsible for their own currency in the future.
Oh, another spicy question just came in, Linda. Do you see a recession coming in the second half of this year? Thanks for that, Aladdin.
I don't see a recession yet. I think that we do have definite slowing, but I don't see a recession yet. Recession being defined as 2 consecutive quarters of negative GDP growth. I don't think we're at a point of negative GDP growth yet. So no, I don't see a recession.
Interesting. Moving on, Linda, you mentioned about a new financial system being birthed. I have up on screen here is a page from Uphold.com. This is their debit card that I believe this is their foreign debit card. They had recently, or let's just say, I think it was 2 years ago now. I feel like it's been blurred when they had released their debit card for U.S. residents, which I had the privilege of using and buying way too many In-N-Out burgers with. But I was curious, and why I think this is timely, because up on stage we've heard Simon McLaughlin at the XRP Las Vegas conference mention that he believes that Uphold will be at the center of everyone's financial lives in the shortcomings. What are your thoughts on that comment? And do you have any insights on potentially when Uphold will reinstate the debit card for U.S. residents again? Because they had basically shut it down, and I believe Simon had mentioned that they are in motion to reinstate that debit card for U.S. residents. Any idea?
Yes, he did say it was coming in September. That was his best estimate of when it was coming. And it's exciting. I think Uphold is a very interesting company because they're not just an exchange. Uphold goes out to multiple exchanges to find the best transaction value when you're buying or selling crypto on their platform. And they have the technology to go from anything to anything. So you could go from, XRP to silver if you wanted to. You can, switch from any asset to any other asset on the platform. That's their plan over time. And so I think Uphold is an exciting private equity investment. I think they're an exciting business. I think they are connected to Ripple in the sense that they are very supportive of them. They hung in there during the whole lawsuit. They didn't take them off their platform. They didn't remove XRP, and I think they're going to be there for a long time to come, and they're going to play a very important role in the future. And this debit card is an interesting opportunity as long as we don't spend our crypto. Accidentally spend my XRP because I think it's very valuable and I don't want to be using it to
Buy burgers.
Yeah. So as long as we're getting it as a byproduct of spending the dollar, that would be fine. That would be a good way to earn extra XRP for free. That would be nice. And that would be a great thing if it works that way.
Yeah, no, just to be very specific, when I was using the Uphold debit card, I was using USDC to fund the transaction, and then receiving, I think it was up to 5% in XRP back, or maybe it was around 2%. I'm getting confused because I also used Global ID's XRP debit card, and that was, since I was one of the earliest people to engage with that product, I was at the highest tier where I was able to get 5% back, and so that was really exciting times. And on your comment regarding Uphold not being an exchange, however, having relationships with many exchanges around the world, the leading exchanges tapping into, I would say, deep pools of liquidity. Do you think, is this because we know that one of the features for the XRPL is smart routing. Is that do you think that's what potentially is under the hood, enabling Uphold to achieve these types of smart routing functions, or being able to tap into, or getting the best prices for these assets across multiple exchanges?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't looked at that, but it makes sense to me that it would be.
Mm-hmm.
And they've spent a lot of time thinking about how they want to set this up and how they want to be handling purchases and sales of cryptocurrencies in the future. They've recently taken on, younger cryptos, I should say, cryptos that haven't been out there very long. Some of them are meme coins that they have on their platform. So they've really expanded and opened up what they want to offer.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have that speculation until we get crypto laws coming in and really defining what crypto needs to be in the future. So we have speculation for a little bit longer. I don't think we're going to have that forever.
Mm-hmm.
But for right now, we have a lot of opportunities, and Uphold has really embraced some really good opportunities on their platform.
Any other, not financial advice, any other digital assets that you are talking about within your community?
Well, I wrote the book on 3 Steps to Quantum Wealth, The Wealth Heir's Guide to Financial Freedom by Investing in Cryptocurrencies. And that was really about how the ISO 20022 messaging standard has to be in place in order for cryptocurrencies to be involved in the banking system. And that's because the banking system today doesn't have any way to talk to each other. The SWIFT system really, the banks can't really communicate. What they did was they came out with a standardization of, how do you say it? What does it mean? Everyone do it the same way. And under ISO, they standardized all of that so that those then who have followed that protocol and are doing that can then be used in the banking system. So it identified to us which ones were going to be able to be used in the banking system. And so we felt that those cryptocurrencies would be good investments in the future, which are like XRP and XLM and XBC and Algorand, et cetera. There's some really great technologies and really great cryptocurrencies out there that are all ready to be part of the banking system.
Yeah, I got a message here from a crypto OG. Mentions great book, by the way, and it is. I want to grab it right now and get it, but then you'll see that I'm wearing my pajamas still on the lower half. But I'm kidding. But is there anything else that you might be able to share from the quantum 3 Steps of Quantum Wealth that might be interesting to those in the audience?
Yeah, well, thank you. I was really proud to have that hit #1 in the US, Australia, and Canada. That was really exciting. And people tell me they reread the book all the time, which is also exciting. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that. And I love it when people love what I write, because I write it for you so that it inspires you to find financial freedom. And also in that book, I really focused on a lot of what's already happened. So a lot, it wasn't just, about the future, although I do talk about the future, but a lot of it is what has already been experienced, what wealth has already been created in digital assets, because some people aren't aware of that. Us in the XRP community, we're well aware of that, but many people, our friends and family, aren't aware of what is the potential, what's already happened, how have people already built wealth. And I think that's just very interesting for people to know, and also comparing it to what happened in the internet cycle, that technology investment cycle, and how does that compare with this technology investing cycle, and how much wealth is going to be created, and how does that happen, and what does it look like? How can you identify things, and how can you identify certain trends and peaks of trends, peaks of bubbles? What are the characteristics of a peak of a bubble, so you can identify, are we in an overpriced situation, and is this about to change? Because someday we will be, but I think we're far from that. But I think people need to study that so that they can recognize that when prices get so stretched and so crazy, because it will get crazy, it'll be beyond crazy over the years. And so when we get to perhaps toward the end of this decade, we'll see that peak of the bubble, and people need to realize that valuations can get very overstretched and then have to basically pull back before they can mature. And we saw that in 2000 with the dot-com bubble. We saw the pop, and then we saw 2 years of down markets before the markets bottomed, and then the leaders really emerged from that, and a lot of the speculation went away. So this is a cycle that happens over and over. It's important for people to understand and study those things, and that's what I try to do in that book.
Amazing. I appreciate that, Linda. And it was a great read. Just the right amount of pages for me as well. Not just enough amount of drawings and pop-ups for me. Anyways, I appreciate you, and kudos to you. How were you able to find time to write a book with everything that you do?
Well, it's interesting. It was a natural time because it was during COVID.
Ah,
So I actually went from Southern California in the Palm Springs area where I live over to where your area is, Newport Beach, and stayed in a hotel room for a while and wrote that book. And it was just, not much was going on. We were kind of confined and uh, couldn't get around too much. And so that is how I chose to spend my time, was writing.
yeah. Wow. Great. Kudos to you. And very inspiring, and something that I myself, I've kind of already started a timeline or a framework for something that I'd like to roll out myself in regards to private investing, but that's to be released here soon. Is there anything, Linda, that we haven't discussed today that you may be still interested in sharing with my audience and community here?
I just want to say, I think that people that are already on board with our investments and with our community, mainly in the XRP community here, but also the Link2 community, and we're kind of half in the private equity community, we're half in the crypto community. I just want to say that I think that we have so much potential for wealth building and financial freedom, for people to not get discouraged. The discouragement that I hear out there, I think it's too early to be discouraged. We haven't even gotten crypto laws yet. We don't even have the legislation making this real money. And we're going to see that. And we need to just keep our cool, stay patient. Everything that you've been studying, I believe, is accurate and will happen. But you need to be patient and allow that to be. And secondly, I want to say to you, Ray, and to you having a young family and getting started out with your YouTube channel, just want to wish you all the luck with that. Everybody who's watching, please support Ray in his channel, subscribe, and we have to support him and Leah and Eden and the family as his mother, Becky. Shout out to Becky. we're just, we love the Fuentes family, and we just want you success. We wish you a lot of success. I know you're going to do really well with this, and thank you for everything that you do and all the support you give everyone.
Oh, thank you, Linda. And my mom is gonna absolutely appreciate that shout out, and she's gonna live that up for a few years now. So thank you for that. Yeah, she's a wonderful woman. My obviously my wife and Eden are at the center of my life and mean a whole bunch to me. So I'm trying my best to scale this channel up and build up my investment portfolio and do D for all the above, and not just build up my investment portfolio, but then also safeguard those investments as well with the appropriate trusts and things of that nature. So those are some of the things that I'm still trying to knock out with the time and resources available. But I'm sure you're aware, when you're starting your own venture, and especially one that's transcends across multiple platforms and into technologies that are emerging, it's just there's a lot to unpack and a lot to be mindful of when scaling something up off the ground. So kudos to you, and appreciate again just your mentorship, your support, and the fact that you're my third subscriber is powerful, and it's just I can't fail with having somebody like you in my corner. So I appreciate you, and hopefully not official yet, but hopefully I see you sooner rather than later, because I know that I'm, for the record, I'm not employed by Link2 whatsoever, but I am obviously a shareholder based on my hard work over the past few years. And so with that being said, I'm still rooting on Link2 all the way as they potentially enter the public markets. And so where I'm getting at is I did speak with Karim Noorani, their CSO, yesterday, who mentioned that they're aiming to host an event for, or catering to Link2's top investors on the platform in Southern California. So maybe we brush elbows sooner rather than later at the Ritz-Carlton or somewhere down here with like-minded investors that see where the world's going and understand the importance of sound money and becoming our own bank and things of that nature. So again, I appreciate you, Linda. Hopefully you join me sooner rather than later also on my channel again, because I know that my community loves you. We've got a whole bunch of comments in here that I wasn't able to share, but regardless though, it's still you got a big fan club from me, my family, and everyone around. So appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to one more time. Sorry.
My pleasure to be here, and thank you so much, Ray. Anytime you asked me to come back, I would come.
Awesome. Sounds good. But or if that's the case, I'd love to get Eden swimming in your pool sometime soon. So hopefully, maybe we'll do the live stream poolside and have some fun and go from there. But regardless, though, Linda, it's great to see you. I'm gonna drop you down here. If you don't mind just staying on the call after I wrap down this live stream, I'd love to chat with you a little bit more. But with that being said, again, everybody, if you thought today's content was impactful, please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, as it really helps me lift this channel off the ground. Had a great time chatting it up with Linda today, and I hope you got some really great information from her. If you have any questions for me or anyone within my network, feel free to leave your questions in the comments below, and I'll make sure to answer them within the order which they were received. Appreciate you all stopping by today and sharing your time with me and Linda. And I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Friday. And thanks for tuning in, guys. Love you mucho. Let me close this down and get out of your hair. Give you your weekend. See ya.